So if you watched my video on Squid Nice vs Sosmula, you probably already become aware of BurnKas, or perhaps you already knew about him before he got incarcerated. Being one of the founding members of 999 Mob, he's a fairly well-known rapper in the underground New York scene. He has features from some well-known figures in the scene like Zilla Kami and Squid Nice. Unfortunately, his career has been on hold for quite a number of years after getting locked up in 2019. When he got a nasty gun charge and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. It seems like we may finally get to see him on the streets in New York next year if he gets off on good behavior, so I think now is as good a time as any to talk about his entire career and life up to this point before he gets released and he makes more history. BurnKas, whose real name is Isaac Desir, was born in Brooklyn in 1998. He spent a lot of his childhood moving around New York State before finally settling in Long Island, growing up just down the street from 112 Ocean Avenue, where an infamous murder took place in the 70s, when Ronald Defoe murdered 6 of his family members after hearing voices in his head telling him to do so. He would describe the neighborhood as spooky, with a lot of unfortunate accidents taking place in the area. It may explain all the misfortune that he had throughout his life and career. In his younger years, he would skateboard everywhere he went, which would worry his parents as they wanted to make sure he stayed on the right path. Kaz had 2 options in his area: stay on the straight and narrow and stay out of harm's way, or get involved in the streets. When he was 14 years old, he would meet his partner in crime and best friend, Drown Millie. Surprisingly, the two of them weren't the most popular kids in school, often being bullied and picked on for standing out. However, this wouldn't stop them from pursuing music, beginning to drop tracks on YouTube in early 2012 under the 999 Mob moniker. The name of the group was supposed to represent a group consciousness and meeting the right person at the right time to do something amazing. That is what 999 is supposed to mean. They're also heavily inspired by Soulja Boy, hoping to harness the same energy as him and blow up off the same wave. Unfortunately though, things weren't all good for Kaz at home, because later in the year, Hurricane Sandy would hit and destroy his entire house. This forced him and his entire family to move into a crowded living space with his aunt. And if that wasn't bad enough, any items the family did manage to get out of the house were stolen after an unknown thug smashed their car window and took everything they had. Perhaps this could be the curse of Ocean Avenue rearing its ugly head once again. This led Kaz to spend a lot more time out of the house and in the streets, eventually becoming a Crip affiliate at the age of 16, which would bring many more complications to his life and music career. This is also where he would meet Squid Nice, the person who would change his life forever in a negative way. I was mistaken in my prior video where I said Squid Nice and BurnKas were friends since childhood. They actually met in the gang, so I'm sorry about that, but let's just move on. In 2014, the 999 Mob would take to SoundCloud to drop many tracks like You Gon' Die Today and Bitches Cry, coming into their own style and building their sound. Later on in the year, they would become aware of the Florida Way, mostly focusing on XXXTentacion, inspiring them to change to a more soulful sound, really pouring their pain into the music they made. This is when Drown Millie dropped his track Make Your Head Lean, his first track to really push numbers, even getting a co-sign by Krayshawn, a big name in New York that the two of them looked up to. Unfortunately, with the newfound fame also came a wave of hate from X fans comparing the two artists, claiming both Kaz and Millie were just copycats trying to ride the coattails of X's wave. Little did fans know that they had actually been moving with that sound for years by that point. Eventually, the two would even get in contact with members only and talk to X himself, forming a connection with him before his unfortunate passing. X wasn't the only connection they had though, as they actually did a show with Craig Zen in 2016, as well as having a video shoot by a pre-famed Tekashi 6ix9ine. I swear, the connections in the underground never fail to amaze me. At the time, Tekashi 6ix9ine was working as a freelance videographer for Elevator, the underground music outlet, and after BurnKas would get connected to Elevator, they would hire 6ix9ine to record a video for him. This is for their track Boof Pack, and funnily enough, this was actually the video 6ix9ine shot with the stolen camera and equipment that he took from Zilla and Righteous P. The track was later posted on Elevator, pushing 99 Mob's wave to the next level. Later on, the two of them would beef because Kaz saw 6ix9ine as a fake blood, because when he used to know him in early 2017, he flew a blue flag claiming he was a Crip, but as soon as Gummo dropped, he changed sets overnight. Kaz was actually one of the first people to expose 6ix9ine's past as a Crip, and of course, Squid Nice would also hop on the hate as well, beefing with 6ix9ine in the coming years. At this point, you can start to see a pattern where Squid Nice seems to look up to BurnKas as a big homie to him. Around the same time in 2017, Kaz would catch a charge for unknown reasons. He wouldn't immediately turn himself in, however, and he would instead go to see family. On the way back to New York, the cops would pull over the bus that he was on and ask Kaz for his ID. Kaz wouldn't comply, however, and would actually end up resisting the cops, getting in a physical altercation with them. This got him locked up for a few months as well as being put on probation. You would think he got a pretty lenient sentence considering what he did, but this would come back to bite him in the butt later on. The connection to X and 6ix9ine wasn't crazy enough. Millie and Kaz also had a couple tracks with Doja Cat before she blew up. He would initially meet her through Periscope, a defunct app that she would live stream on, and they would take to her chat to make fun of her until she eventually noticed them. They would then form a connection and make music together, but unfortunately the tracks would never drop because Kaz would say some out-of-pocket shit, jokingly telling her to suck his dick, leading Doja to take it the wrong way and pull out at the last minute. It's unknown if these tracks still exist, but they may have been deleted by Doja Cat after this altercation. On top of all of that, BurnKas would also get connected to City Morgue as well as meeting Sosmula through a mutual. He would even release a track with Zilla in 2019 called Red Rum. First became aware of Zilla when he was doing a show in New York where Zilla was supposed to headline, but Zilla never ended up showing up, and the two would later get connected when they happened to go to the studio at the same time years later. It wasn't just musical connections Kaz was making, however, is he was actually handing out the beats to anyone who looked at him funny, getting into a pretty violent altercation with an upcoming artist named Aladdin. Turns out Aladdin was talking shit about him on Facebook, and after he would go to New York to hang out with a girl, Kaz would show up, smash his door open, and beat him up so bad that he was crying for his life. And if that wasn't disrespectful enough, he would proceed to do a post-fight interview on Mel's TV. Unfortunately, the good times wouldn't last for Kaz, as his past would catch up to him sooner than later when he was hanging out with Squid Nice and other fellow members of his gang in a car. Squid Nice would begin live streaming on Instagram, flexing a gun as well as smoking pot. This would put the police on the trail, and they were pulled over a few minutes later. Kaz attempted to get Squid to take the gun, but Squid refused, however, throwing a big fit, getting Kaz in more shit considering he was already on probation. This entire event was actually live streamed. You can't see what's happening, but you can hear what's happening, and Kaz was actually handled pretty roughly, getting beat up by the cops. After this, all the members of the car were taken into custody. Many of them were let off pretty easy, but Kaz was forced to stay in jail for a couple weeks' time. He was later let off on bail, but his trial was still ongoing. During the time that Kaz was locked in jail, many of the members of the car would start talking shit about him, as well as Squid Nice, getting in a beef with Sos Mula, and after he kept talking about the case on Instagram Live, it would get Kaz deeper and deeper in shit. Squid Nice actually had a big label behind him and fancy lawyers to back him up, while Kaz was an independent artist who could only defend himself with a public lawyer. After Kaz was released on bail, he would fly straight to LA to do a show with members only. Unfortunately, the show would fall apart after the promoter got found out for some shady business. This robbed the two of them of their chance to meet Cray Sean, and for Kaz to perform one more time before everything hit the fan. Both Drown Millie and BurnKas would decide to stay in LA after this point, and they would hop on Mars Files to air out Squid Nice even farther. They would post a picture of him in the interrogation room looking like a scared little boy, as well as calling him Squid Mice over and over again. This was basically the last thing that Kaz got to do on the outside, because not long after that, he was taken in and charged for possession of a firearm and sentenced to 6 years in prison. This is where he remains even to this day, leaving Drown Millie to lead 999 Mob all on his own. Luckily, it does seem like Kaz will be coming home next year for good behavior, so let's hope he does return and he gets back on to making music and keeping himself out of trouble. I know that BurnKas is a very talented artist, and he just needs to stay away from a life of crime and don't get himself involved in that bullshit anymore. He definitely has talent, and he's going to waste it while he sits in jail. So I'll say it one more time, free BurnKas until it's backwards. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a knife emoji in the comments below, or say knife gang, free BurnKas. You can also leave a fire emoji for him as well. And if you want to be really cool, you can also subscribe, because I'm trying to make my way to 3,000 subscribers now. I've been making my way up in the numbers very fast, and I couldn't be more appreciative of you guys, so thank you so much for that. But most of all, more than anything, thank you guys so much for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye.